All right, I guess we're live. I can't really hear all that well. Good evening to you, folks. We got the producer working with us tonight, helping us out. A lot of things going on to talk about tonight in the program. Thanks for being patient. Just took us a couple extra minutes to get everything straightened out on the link tonight. But we're here and we're back at it again. Tonight we're going to talk about the greatest coach ever, at least on film. And we normally don't do this because we don't want to spin out and do something that's a national topic, but the death of Gene Hackman brought back some memories today. And if you were fortunate enough to be able to see that great movie, Hoosiers, you saw not only a great actor, but a portrayal of a coach that was authentic as ever. So as we get ready to jump into this discussion tonight, talking about the basketball team trying to win another game this weekend, B, talking about the baseball team doing so well, C, talking about the softball team maybe, we'll have a little room in there for some discussions like, how is Billy Napier really doing? How's he doing? And you'll get a mixed bag from people on that, but you should be able to get the straight scoop here from Ben Troop and myself, hopefully, as we work our way to the technical overrides here tonight. Let's just go right to the man himself, Ben Troop, who joins the program tonight from Savannah, GA. We missed him last week. We always do when he's not here. Good evening to, let's see, why can't I get him on?
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ? I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Welcome to the program, folks. Somebody wearing the white hat. There was Ben Troop. He's up in Savannah, GA. We missed him last week. We always miss Ben Troop when he's not there. And we get ready for the weekend for some ball. Obviously, the height of that is basketball. We can talk all the basketball you want to, but there's not anything to talk about except whether or not Florida's chance were hurt for a 1 seed, which they were, or what happened to the Gators as we relived already. Ooh, what's that going on? Something blinking. What's blinking? Huh. Wow. And whatever you want to talk about. But tonight we got Ben Troop, and we're going to do a little mixed bag. And I've got a little different topic tonight. I'd like you to join in with your comments if you could. A lot of people don't know this guy and don't know what he did. But to me, my all-time favorite, not my all-time favorite, one of the top 3 sports movies I ever saw was Hoosiers. And the guy portrayed Norman Dale, the coach of the small school in Indiana that won the state, passed today. He was found dead in New Mexico with his wife, 95 years old. And I immediately had to go call that scene up again. And I know Ben Troop knows what I'm talking about. Good evening to you, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good, buddy. And I saw the news of Gene Hackman, and obviously I was, I didn't know he was, 95 is a long time, but man, my condolences go out to his family, because 95 was a long time, but he meant a lot to a lot, he meant a lot to a lot of people. And I know that Hoosiers is what Gene Hackman is most known for, but I became a Gene Hackman fan when he did the movie The Replacements with Keanu Reeves. But once again, I mean, I was a Gene Hackman movie guy. Like, I mean, when he played in Mississippi Burning, I mean, he was such a seasoned. No. I'm sorry. My favorite Gene Hackman movie. You got Hoosiers, you got The Replacements. As I mentioned, you got Mississippi Burning. My favorite Gene Hackman movie is Crimson Tide. Oh
that was a great movie.
Because it's almost like Gene Hackman. You forget that he's portraying a character. Like, that's a character because he embodies it so well. So yeah, I mean, may he rest in peace, rest in paradise. Mm-hmm. Obviously to the ones he left behind, which he probably left a lot of them, grands, great grands.
Yeah.
But our condolences go. But yeah, Gene Hackman, you become he to me, he's iconic for Hoosiers now. I mean, that's an iconic movie. But he had so many iconic roles that was just one of the most well known. Because I mean, Gene Hackman had he played in Batman. I mean, he was one of the Batman villains. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Gene Hackman did a lot. He has a very extensive movie portfolio, no doubt.
Listen to Ben True bringing some Hollywood into this thing like he knows what he's talking about, huh? That's good stuff. Well, I thought about coaches today. I've known coaches all my life. I've been around them all my life. Some pretty good people, really, to be honest with you. And I thought about a lot of people that I've known and coaches I've known and the portrayal that he did. I know Hoosiers is so special because of the scenes. There are two scenes in that, and folks, you can comment on these. One is the day when people know the movie. It's about the smallest high school in Indiana getting to the state tournament. That's like going to the Super Bowl if you're Florida Gators. I mean, that is like the thing in Indiana. And they get there and they go to play a game in a big stadium and a big gym. Two things I remember. I remember him bringing his kids in early and walking around the gym. What did he say to them? The baskets are all 10 feet high. Remember that, Ben?
They did. The thing about it is, buddy, you take a guy like Gene Hackman who, you play these iconic roles because people say, well, dude, could you imagine anybody else playing him in that movie? Like, no, because Gene Hackman did it's almost like he brings you into the huddle. He brings you into the game. He brings you into the moments. And I guarantee you there are coaches right now using those lines. I mean, they 10 feet high. I mean, because why wouldn't it? But, hey, I can only imagine being, making it to the big time in acting and you get roles like that, like iconic ones to where you go, hey, man, this can make or break my career.
Yeah.
How well, but he did it so much justice, no doubt.
Yeah. And I don't know, I'm not going to start talking about Gene Hackman all night, but he represents so many things. Let's forget the movies. I'm not a movie critic. I just loved my first movie I saw in sports was an abomination. It was called Fear Strikes Out. It was about the guy who played, it was a Pearsall. And I met Pearsall, by the way, later on. He was crazy. He really went to the nut house, and he said, but I'm saying today, I got a piece of paper. That's just the real Pearsall. But Tony Perkins played him, and I was so discouraged when I saw how he threw the baseball. I thought, that's like a girl, man. You can't throw the baseball like that and be a big star. So that's how far movies have come. And this was one of the most, they've had some other good sports movies after then. But Hoosiers, he was so Norman Dale. He was that guy, that small town coach who knew he had his moment, and his kids were all, blown away by it and how he brought them to that tournament and what he did with them. And it was just a beautiful story. And the speech he gave before the game and the one he gave when he brought the team in, and so the baskets were all 10 feet high. And then the huddle shot at the end. Who's going to take the shot? That was a beautiful scene too. So I mean, this is a great. I told people today on my Twitter feed or whatever, Facebook, do yourself a favor. If you're 50, 60, 70, whatever you are, and you have a family or neighbors that never saw Hoosiers, go and rent it. Go and rent it and let them see this movie. I guarantee you'll thank me for it. So not to dwell too much on that, but it was indeed a phenomenal movie. And boy, I'm sure sorry to see we lost Gene Hackman. I heard Kevin Costner talk about him today. He told the story about how Costner made a movie with him. And he told the story of what it was like working with him. So he saw one younger actor have to do his lines 25 times over. And each time he did, Hackman had to do it. And he never missed a beat. Anyway, so he's the greatest actor ever. So, all right, not to dwell too much on that. We got Franz Beard standing by. Let's talk a little football. I was in the presence of a couple of people in the recent week. We'll bring fans in here in a minute, too, to discuss this, talking about Billy. Now, we've had a lot of conversations about Billy turning the corner and maybe have this program go in the right direction and all that kind of stuff. The people I talked to said, there ain't no way he's going to do it. And he's over. And these are people that are not on the staff, but they're close to the program that said he just can't do it because he's such a control freak, that he keeps a little piece of paper in his back of his pocket and he's got a checklist that has to go exactly that order. He hires coaches and brings them in and doesn't announce them for 3 weeks because he doesn't want to announce it. And then he picks the person that he wants to get the start. Now, I don't want to be bringing anybody's parade, especially Francis, but, Billy's got some learning to do. I don't know if he'll ever learn it. He may, despite himself, have a winning program. So I think about coaches. I think about coaches like that. I think about Buzz Williams. Now, you guys probably don't know this. I read something today, friends, and you join in. Well, I was so impressed with Buzz Williams, the coach at Texas A&M. Not because I coached, because what he said to a youngster in the press conference. When the press conference was over, I'll stop talking and let you guys chime in. And Buzz Williams, 2 weeks ago, he took his papers and he says, turned to a young kid and said, how old are you? He said, 19. He said, I assume that you're in the University of Missouri Journalism School. Yes, sir, I am. And that is probably a fine school. He said, well, I was you once. And I did, and I understand what Jenna said. He said, I got some things, 4 things I wish I learned then, and I'd like to give them to you today. Can you type them down? And here they were, the 4 things that he said. This is Francis. This is the guy talking about rising, a coach talking about journalism. All right, he said, read more than you think you should. 2, write down everything about everything all the time. Over the next 10 years, build as many relationships as you can and learn to connect the dots between those relationships. That's a beautiful thing right there, I think. What do you think, guys?
Typical Buzz Williams. Buzz is unique. One of my favorite coaches in the entire world. He is rock solid in fundamentals, rock solid in his dedication to his players. These kids who play for him will do anything in the world for him. I mean, literally anything. Because they got a coach that would literally do anything in the world for them, and they know it. And the feelings grow reciprocal because he treats people like that. I guarantee you, Saturday, he'll see me at that ball game, and he'll come up and he'll remember my name, and he'll talk and he'll be friendly and he'll be nice to me. It's interesting, Buddy and Ben, how most of the basketball coaches in the SEC are really nice guys. I mean, they really are. Most of the football coaches in the SEC really aren't nice guys. And it's strange how that is. Rick Barnes, Tennessee, friendly, gets blown out by 30 points in Florida and takes the time on the way out to have a chat with me and ask me how things are going. Remembers sitting with me and Larry Shiat at the Peach Jam. I mean, 18 years ago. I mean, my gosh, that kind of guy. Buzz, win or lose, Buzz will be nice. He wears a 3-piece suit. You know why he wears a 3-piece suit? Because the people who taught him wore 3-piece suits. And he does that out of respect for the people who taught him how to coach. Now, that's a genuine guy.
Yeah, it is. Now, Ben, you've known coaches, and now you've known coaches as a player, and then some players in the media. What's the difference?
Ooh, you say coaches and what with the media?
Well, you know coaches as a media member,
and you
know coaches that you played for.
Yeah.
and you had to play for Ron Zook. You played for Spurrier, right? So you play, and knowing coaches are a different breed of cat. They're master motivators and manipulators.
They
They are, but they're also some of the finest people I know. Yeah.
No, they are masters at knowing what to say. They treat us according to the personality that we have. They're a coach to all of us, but I think what coaches do the best job of, a coach know exactly what to say. I've been fortunate that one of the best mind manipulators, if you want to call it, of a coach I've been around was on the defensive side of the ball. And it was Coach Charlie Strong. He understood how. I'm talking to Steve Harris. I'm talking to Brian Crum, guys that played under him. And Brian Crum said something that I've never heard a defensive player say. I said, I was, I got Crum coming up on 84 Reasons. And I said, Crum, what made y'all defense so good in 2006? And he said, Coach Charlie Strong let us know where the ball cannot go. The ball cannot go over here. So we only going to where the ball is. I ain't never heard that before. They're in there telling us there is no way this ball can go here. And when you think about it, so he's cutting off one whole portion of the field and different things. But Brian Crum also said Coach Strong knew us all individually, so he can coach us all collectively. He knew all of us. He know what makes us tick. Now, Ron Zook was like that. Ron Zook, it took me my senior year to understand that Ron Zook would talk to the team through me. So he's going crazy on me, but he knows, he's already told me, I need you to take it. I need you to give me good body language. I need you to say yes, sir, no, sir. And sometimes, because he know I would want to say something back, but he goes, you are my trickle-down effect. If you do it, it gives them permission to do it. If you say it, it gives them permission to say it. And then Coach Spurrier had this. It was like, it's hard to describe it, but Coach Spurrier had this knack for saying, I'm going to say just enough. Why? Who did Coach Spurrier go crazy on? Quarterbacks. That's it. I don't ever remember him screaming at receivers, running back, Rex, Noah Brandeis, Shane Matthews, Danny Warfel, Rex Grossman, Jesse Palmer. They knew Coach Spurrier because he's in the meeting room with them. But what makes all these coaches great is this. Them coaches say, look, I got to get you to do what you don't want to do so you can become something that you didn't even know you could become. That's a good coach. They're going to make you do. Coach Tyke Tober, my junior year, was the best tight end coach I ever had. His main thing, he would never cuss at you where he would. He'd call you a biscuit. You don't get your biscuit. I hated the word biscuit when I was coached by him. But once you realize, Coach Tyke Tober is he's the receivers coach right now for the Tennessee Titans, got hired by Rand Carthon, and I just think that a coach like Buzz Williams understands every person I come across, I want to impact. Not just our players, I get it. But certain people just get it. Coach Buzz Williams understands if I got to talk to the media, which I do, what can I say to this young journalist so that he or she understands they're important right now? Look. Listen, man. Listen, read more. Build relationship.
Got down to their level. It got down to their level and brought them up, and
a Buzz Williams will have that young journalist understanding that, look, you better listen. You in here with Franz Beard. So either you're gonna get your question asked or you're gonna have to write a story about his question getting asked. You better learn to assert yourself in these rooms. Hey man, certain coaches they get it. And Coach Buzz Williams is definitely one of those guys, no doubt.
But Buzz is a unique guy, and he walked on in junior college. Okay. And became the manager of his junior college team, goes on to Oklahoma City University, which is at one point in time was coached by the late great Abe Lemons, who at the NIT, back when the NIT was something special, at halftime had his team do a shirts and skins scrimmage because he wasn't happy with the way they played. But he went to Oklahoma City again as the team manager. And now he wears that three-piece suit. Why? Because his coaches wore it.
Yeah.
Why? Because he respects the heritage that, and it's kind of like there's that old saying in the Bible, children obey your parents, etc., like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like Buzz takes that to the level of, okay, these guys taught me, so I respect them.
Right. Well, what I want to do tonight, Francis, I can use both you guys, and I'm doing a piece for this magazine called The Occalan, which is going to come out again in a couple of weeks. Is my friend Carlton Reese. And he wants me to do a piece about our early coaches and about people who made a big difference in our lives early on at 14, 15, 16. We've all had major influences. We've known them. And even in the media, we've had these coaches that we've known. Franz, you and I knew a couple of them, Jim Nyblack being one, And then Bird Wiggum. Who was Bird Wiggum? He was a coach.
Wildwood,
he was the Hoosiers. That was the Hoosiers of high school football. They were unbelievable. They had like 23 people on the squad. They're from Wildwood. They played in the state championship and beat a Lake City team that was 3 times bigger than them. And I remember the game where on, I guess it was 4th and 1 or 4th and 2. And Wiggum called a throw, threw the ball and threw for a touchdown pass. You don't say that in high school. When the game was over, I said, Bert, what are you doing? Why did you throw the ball there? You just need a first down. And he said, buddy, first downs don't win football games, touchdowns do. I remember that quote always. And his team was, I hear from those kids today, even that Wildwood team of the 60s, whatever year that was, 63, 4, 5. There are guys playing on that team that every now and then will contact me and follow whatever I write or whatever. And that is living Hoosiers of football. They're there. Now he's gone. So I want to remember it back a couple of them. But your favorite coach of all time, and I'm doing this piece where I've got on my high school coach I love so much. I wish he'd have been coached me Don Cobb, who was a fantastic coach that went back, left there, and went to Miami from our high school. And was involved in the community like you never saw. Ben, here's a guy that only coached, but he also would go down, take the so-called record player, because there were no Wi-Fi, hi-fis in those days, down to the auditorium on a Wednesday night. This is in addition to what he did. And every kid could come free to that place, and they could have a dance free. Never in all the years did we have a fight, alcohol, nothing ever happened. And we'd have 100 kids there. He also encouraged you, taught you how to work off in the off season. He would holler at you. I missed a tackle one time, and I was not even a defensive back. I was a quarterback, but I was playing on defense, and I made a half-ass tackle of the guy. He stopped practice. He called me over there and not only did he chew my butt out, Ben, he took the meanest, nastiest guy he had, Bobby Winfield, who played football in Miami later. And for some reason, I'm blinking. Am I blinking, guys?
You're blinking, buddy.
I don't know why. I don't know. Wow, I don't know what that means exactly, Brendan. Sorry about that annoying big. I'll say this and get off for a second. Anyway, what happened was he stopped practice. He got the biggest, baddest guy, brought him over and said, you're going to have to tackle him head on. I tackled him head on about 6 or 7 times. They had to take me out of there and send me, man, I couldn't. I was physically exhausted. You guys continue the conversation while I duck out of here and find out what's going on, all right?
Yeah, Ben, I think we all remember a certain high school coach that because those are when we're at our vulnerable years, trying to decide if it's worth it. For example, I've had so many ball players over the years tell me that, during their sophomore year, their junior year, it's 100 degrees out there. Everybody's sweating. They're too tired, and they get chewed out by a coach, and they wonder, is it worth it to me? Is it should I even continue this? I mean, my gosh, why worry about a football scholarship? My cousin's driving a truck and making $40,000 a year, and he has no worries. I mean, stuff like that. And yet, the really great coaches are the ones that would chew you out, and then they come up to you after practice and say, "I hope you understand. I'm chewing you out because I know what you can be. I want you to be better than what you think you can be." Those are the great coaches. I had one, his name was Benny Kimball in Macomb, Mississippi. And he had this high, squeaky voice. And fans! I mean, he and Spurrier went to the same boys' school, I promise you. And he could get on my case. But you know what he'd do after practice? He'd drive me home because I walked home. I lived about a mile and a half from the gym, and he'd see me. He'd wait to see me coming out of the gym and start walking. He'd come out there, stop the car, drove a Chrysler New Yorker, said, "Get in," and I'd get in, and on the way to my home, which was about 4 blocks from where he lived, he'd say, "You know that I think you can be better than what you think you can be." That still means so much to me that a coach
It chokes you up even, doesn't it? It chokes you up.
It does. And Ben, I guarantee you had a coach like that at some point in your life.
My high school coach, David Land, every time I think about him, because my high school we weren't me in the state of Georgia, we weren't a powerhouse. And what happens is, I didn't play my freshman year, and then I played my sophomore year. And then when I got on varsity, my coach, he was one of those guys, he had these triggers, and you never know when you done, struck one of them. But we had this, back when we played, you had the little thing, like the little tube, and you push the water, the hose pipe going, and it just shoots out from all. It's like that's what we drunk from. So one day I said, "Coach, I got to get some water." And I go over there and I'm drinking. I don't know that he's looking right at me. He goes, oh, so you gonna just drink it out? He made me run around the field. I might have ran around the field about 4 or 5 times. In his mind, he's like, "You ain't going fast enough, you ain't doing hard enough." And mind you, it was just one of those days. I'm like, Coach Land is getting on me. But then I saw the Augusta Chronicle was at practice. I remember this. And this guy was staring at me. And they was asking about all these players. And Coach Land said, "You see him right here? You might want to take his name down." The guy spelled my name Bentroup. Right? He didn't even put the E on it. They asked my coach, how would you describe him? Like, how would you describe him? And he said, "Georgia's best kept secret." And that was the headline. Wow. That was the headline. Then heard about this football camp at the University of Georgia. Obviously, I know I'm not going because I can't afford it. Coach Land told me, "Ben, I'll be there to pick you up at your house." He paid for me to go to the camp. Then the Florida-Georgia game was coming up. That's you got the East-West Shrine game. You got the North-South game. And I remember telling Coach Land, I said, "Coach, listen, I ain't trying to bother you or nothing. But if there's a way I can get in the Florida-Georgia game, just let me know." I didn't think nothing of it, man. I'm sitting in ROTC my senior year because I was in ROTC for 4 years. All of a sudden, Coach Land knocked on the door. I was like, "Yes, sir." He's like, "Come with me." He ain't saying nothing, though. We walking. I'm like, "Coach, what's wrong with you?" I'm talking to him. He's not saying. I'm thinking, what did I do? Like, did I do something? Head coach ain't saying nothing. Walk in his office. It's a phone. It's off the hook. He said, "Pick the phone up." I go, "Hello?" They said, "Is this Ben?" I go, "Yeah." They said, "This is so-and-so, commissioner for the Florida Georgia High School All-Star Game. Congratulations." And I mean, to this very day, and because you think you know your coach. Like, you think you know, because you know him. My coach to this day, if Coach Land got to do an event, he got this. He got the blue blazer with the big yellow buttons on it.
Mm-hmm.
He wears it to everything. That is my go-to. I could never tell Coach Land how much he means to me because, like you said, friends, it took me becoming a senior to really know who my head coach was, like to really, really know. And when I went to Florida and I came back, you come back after your freshman year, and I said, Coach, when you first saw me, did you think I would be able to do what I've done? He said, I'll talk to you when you're done. I will talk to you when you are done. And I think coaches like Coach Land, I don't think he care about no recognition. I don't think he care about no accolades. He is a hell of a human being.
He cares about you. He cares about you, and players can tell that.
Coach.
Yeah,
Coach Land. Listen, you know how you hear coaches say, "Man, I treat I treat him like he was my own son."
Yeah,
Coach Land meant every single word to the point where you come back to school and they coach the same. They yelling and screaming, get your, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And the players be like, Ben, does it work? I said, it works if you buy in. Because we didn't win a lot of games. So, I've had a bunch of coaches, but they can't touch Coach David Land from Thompson, Georgia.
All right, David.
Right. They're homie.
That's great. And I want to jump in. I got Kevin Brockway standing by. But before we get to Kevin, let me tell you a little bit about one of our fine sponsors. That'd be Meldon Law. Look forward to seeing Jeffrey soon. Meldon Law, of course, they are big Gators. They also have locations in Ocala, Gainesville, Williston Lake City for you. They want you to know if you want legal help and you want some review of your cases or whatever, you can call them and go see them. And they'd like you to know they're there for you. They are all Gators all the time, and they are the only official injury law firm of the University of Florida. Meldon Law, they won't back down. All right, we're going to go now. We're going to bring Coach Kevin Brockway in here. But before we do, I just want to say, first of all, I'm very proud of Laura Rutledge today. Laura Rutledge got a big contract with ESPN. And I thought back, and I wish Brendan was in here, we said this, I thought back to the first day I ever saw her and talked to her. And I said, you'll be the next Erin Andrews. And I think today that's what she did. Because the contract was big. She'll be more involved with the NFL. She was our intern at Gator Country. And I wrote a little note. I said, well, Nostradamus, you'll be the next Erin Andrews. And she laughed. And she said, thank you for everything you did. Anyway, the person who deserves the credit for it's not me. It's really Brendan. And C. Russell gave her a start. Anyway, so congratulations to her. Now, what is up? We're going to talk about what is up with Billy Napier. I talked to some people this week who told me, hey, it's not good, who are sort of inside the program. I am glad he hired Steve Spurrier Jr. Finally, excuse me if I say that the person who wrote breaking news on that story, we had it 3 weeks ago on my Twitter. Anyway, bottom line is we'll talk about Billy Napier. And, of course, we're going to talk about Todd Golden. Can he turn this program around? With that, we'll bring in our colleague and friend who was usually on Monday or Wednesday, but tonight has consented to consort with us on this particular evening. And that would be Kevin. I'm sorry, Kevin, I'm coming to get you. Kevin Brockway. Evening, Kevin. How you doing, man?
Well, first of all, it's great to see the great Ben Troop. Secondly, turn the program around, buddy. They're 24-4, you know? I mean, Mike White was bound to get him sooner.
I didn't mean turn the program around.
Mike White was bound to get him sooner or later.
No, I'm not meaning turn. If I said that, I misspoke. I'm talking about they got to overcome their loss at Georgia. Turn the momentum around. It's probably what I should.
Turn the momentum. Yes. Thirdly, I just got back from Greenhouse Church and watched Darryl Strawberry speak again. I did a story on him in 2017, and what an inspirational message. I mean, you talk about a guy that walked it and was in a really hard place in his career and was in GCI, Gainesville Correctional, and turned it around. And he was just really good at that banquet tonight. So it was a boyhood hero of mine growing up as a New York Mets fan. But let's get to hoops, buddy. What do you got?
Well, we've been talking about coaches, and we're talking about special coaches that we had personally experienced. We all talk about it. I'm doing a piece in a magazine in Ocala. There were 3 guys. I mentioned one, my coach, Coach Don Cobb, who was with the University of Miami after he left us. Loved him like a father almost. And then we had 2 guys in Little League, and we had a recreation department, second to none in the country. Every kid in Ocala, if you're white, and that was the truth, could have been, it was segregated, had something to do every season. So there was either a football, basketball, or baseball. Whether it was Babe Ruth, Little League, these 2 men saw to it that we all got opportunities to play. And one of them was Howard Roebucker, my coach, and the other was Jeremy Gant after the park. The name was after him, Jeremy Gant. And they built that program there so every kid would be accounted for and kept us out of trouble. And what they did in that community held us together. And Ben, I'm sure you had some, and I'm sure you did too, Kevin and friends, people who in your town, it was a village. It really was a village. And they held us here. So I'm doing a piece on these guys, why they were so impactful. It's funny how you remember all these years later, friends, things you were taught when you were 14, 13, 14, you remember. And coaches have a great impactful way of doing this. So tonight, as I'm mourning the loss of the greatest coach on film, Gene Hackman, in the fabulous Hoosiers scene, and I'll get you to talk about it, Kevin. That was certainly one to remember. And we talk about these coaches that we love that coached us. We're also going to put on the stand Billy Napier tonight and a little bit Todd Golden. So where do you want to start, Kevin? I'll give you the chance. Who you want to start with?
Yeah, let's start with Todd Golden and obviously the loss on Tuesday night. And obviously we saw the slow start against LSU to the first half, and it really caught up to him. Obviously getting in that 26-point hole that's too tough to get out of. Obviously the second half, made that valiant comeback effort. Was it a moving screen at the end? There's some questions there. Bottom line is, though, you cannot put yourself in that hole. And this is a team that, we saw against Kentucky and we saw against Missouri. I mean, they're a much improved defensive team, but they occasionally have those lapses. And I thought that they had that lapse of intensity on Tuesday night, particularly in the first 10 minutes, where they really weren't guarding and they allowed Georgia's 3-point shooters to get a little comfortable. Now, Georgia, did they hit some contested ones? Yeah, but they had a lot of wide open looks at the basket in that game, and they knocked them down. And you are going to have games like that, but I think that's the one thing I think that sometimes holds this team back from being truly elite is that they have those games where they kind of slip in the defensive mode from last year and don't execute as well as they should.
Let me throw this out there, and then I'm going to do a spot after this for our friends up in north of us, Titan MRI and Imaging. Here's what we're talking about tonight. And that is I hear other broadcasts, like there's a show on this network called Auburn Undercover. And they're very knowledgeable people. And they, of course, have the number 1 team in the country. And these are good guys. But I heard a comment the other night that said, well, and they didn't mean it mean spirit. They said, well, it's going to be Auburn, it's going to be Alabama, the Iron Bowl, and Florida. They may slip to a 2 or even a 3 seed, or whatever. And I'm thinking, I don't think we're ever going to see this again on a night where our guys couldn't throw it in the ocean. And how bad they shot, and Georgia threw anything they threw up, stuck and went in. The refs.
But you got to make them uncomfortable, though. That's not an excuse. You still
no.
There are ways you can make shooters uncomfortable. Okay, the 14 team did that.
Put their body on them, as I understand.
You got it. Yeah, you can still make them. That's not an excuse. You say,
you didn't hear me out. I didn't say. I said in this conversation, I gave Georgia full credit, saying give them credit for crowding the 3-point shooters and whatever. But all those things happened at one time. What I'm saying is that's not the Florida team we're going to see ever again. That's my take on it. So you guys go ahead.
Alabama doesn't play a lick of defense either, buddy. And Florida could go up there and they could win. If Florida wins out, they're going to get the 1 seed. And it's entirely possible that they could do that. They don't scare that kind of team. I don't think scares Florida. I think Florida could outscore. And I've never felt much about Nate Oates as a defensive coach. And but you obviously got to. Texas A&M could be a more dangerous game because they're a pretty physical team, and they're kind of desperate coming off 2 losses. Yeah. But you win out, you get the number 1 seed. If you don't, you're probably a 2 or 3.
Could be. And Franz, how do you go over? How do you get no points against LSU and 30 against Georgia?
Well, for one thing, Will Richards started looking for a shot, and he is. I think Kevin would agree with me. He has games where he just allows himself to disappear. And he's a guy that is very capable of creating his own shot. And I think sometimes he gets too passive waiting for someone to get him the ball. And instead of saying, okay, I'm going to make my own shot when I have it, he's a really good driver and finisher because he can jump out of the gym. I mean, he really elevates. I think Kevin, would you say 41, 42 vertical at least?
Yeah, and he's gotten so much more athletic compared to last year too. It shows up on the defensive end of the floor with him too in terms of the passing lanes and the steals. He has really improved in that area, and I think he kind of took that to heart too when he went to the, obviously the pre-draft process in the NBA. He was probably told that, and he worked on it. And I think sometimes because of his personality, he's kind of a humble kid. I think sometimes he does take a back seat and doesn't hunt for a shot the way an Elijah Martin does or the way a Walter Clayton Jr. does. So sometimes that gets out of whack. But when he has a hot hand, I think the team does recognize it. And they kind of like that South Carolina game on the road that they did come back and win. They recognize he had the hot hand and he carried him. So he's capable of doing it. He just doesn't do it as frequently as, say, a Walter Clayton. And, I don't know if it's him being too deferential or, he gets down on his confidence if he misses a couple of shots early and, like you said, doesn't look for a shot.
Let me tell you about Titan MRI real fast before you go to our sponsor, Titan MRI and Imaging. Now Titan MRI and Imaging is calling. They want you to know they're available up there for you in Gainesville, Ocala, and soon to come in other areas. They were acquired, Titan MRI and Imaging acquired Highfield MRI, and the guy who founded that was Joe Coloria, and he's back. He'll be back now with them, and you'll see him if you knew him before. He started Highfield MRI in 1997. Now he's back. Titan MRI and Imaging now has 3 locations to serve you, 2 in Gainesville, also one on Park Avenue and the Millennium, and then the 1 in Lake City, serving all of Columbia County, and also they have 1 in Valdosta. So check them out. Need a CAT scan or whatever you want to have a more comfortable experience, custom make your appointment. Try Titan MRI and Imaging. All right, so Ben, we're a lot of talking about it, whether they're going to be a 1 seed, whatever. How far you were up there in Georgia? That was a stinging defeat, no matter what it means. It was difficult to stomach, but I'm sure you had a hard time explaining it to your friends too. But what's your thought about how bad, if at all, that will hurt Florida?
I mean, hopefully it catapults them to understand that. I think when you got a team like Florida that has won games coming from behind, that can't be your recipe for success moving forward. The SEC top to bottom, and the ACC is always going to get the love, but you got stiff competition, night in and night out. But I agree with something, Kevin and, Fran said, when you think about Will Richard, if Will Richard could not play timid, because Clayton will he will shoot it from anywhere. Sometimes you question Clayton's decision, but it goes in. Will Richard, if he could just take 50% of that, because certain players make your team go. Walter knows, hey man, I'm gonna shoot till I'm hot, I'm gonna shoot till I'm cold, but I'm gonna shoot. When Will Richard is streaky because he chooses to be streaky. And like I said, I don't know how Todd Golden tells him to play. I don't know, green light, whatever, but I think a Georgia game happens, and you don't want it to happen, but you happen that it happened now because you can hopefully use it because you want momentum going into the tournament. I mean, you want as much momentum as you possibly can. I think the thing about Florida is good enough to beat anybody in the country, anybody. But when Florida loses, it's always a head scratcher. It's always like, dude, what happened? Because, yeah, Georgia still, they stormed the court. Okay, Mike White. Congratulations, Mike White. But I just think that Coach Todd Golden got these guys, moving in the right direction. It's just Will Richard is between the ears. Dude, you gotta play aggressive. And you gotta play aggressive the whole game. Because like I said, we if you watching a random Florida game, you're gonna be like, who is this Clayton kid? A shooter, and he is aggressive, and he knows it. I don't come back to Florida because I didn't get the draft. I didn't get the draft analysis that I want. I ain't got time to play. I think with Will Richard is the same thing. Just go out there and be aggressive, shoot till you hot, shoot till you cold. But I don't think it's gonna be like a trickle down from them. I just think that.
Yeah.
I just think that
Kevin brings up a good point, Kevin. Excuse me for interrupting you, man.
About
maybe using this. Maybe you need a little bit of a kick in the butt, right?
Well, I think too the strength of this team is depth, and it was tested. And the fact that they went 6-2 with some of the injuries they had, Clayton going down, right, Elijah going down, then Condon going down, speaks to that depth. And Aberdeen is a guy that got to get his confidence back a little bit. He's another one that, you really want to see going into March. He looked like he was on the come a couple of weeks ago. But you get him firing, you get Condon back healthy. I think it'll figure out. I think those things will hash out. I do think Hanlogden coming back will help with rim protection. You don't expect him to score a lot of points. Rebounding too, he had nine rebounds in 6 minutes. I know I was on another show where Shane thought that he kind of slowed the team down a little bit. That's a little bit of a fair point, but I think he's going to be more positive than a negative in March as well. And Sam Alexis's ankle, I guess, is pretty bad, and we'll see if he makes it back in time for the end of the regular season or the SEC tournament. But they, knock on wood, they stay healthy, they'll have the depth, and that's going to be their biggest strength going into the tournament is how deep they are.
Why didn't Aberdeen play more the other night?
Well, I think, he came in and he kind of struggled. And I guess Todd, and Klafshar is another guy too. Todd has kind of grown confidence.
I'd like to see him get more minutes. He's a good defender.
But you can't play everyone either. Yeah. I think you just kind of have to
problem with 10 guys. You can't play all 10 guys.
Ideally, I think your rotation is 8. So you got to figure out which 8 are playing well that night. And if Klafshar is playing better than Aberdeen that night, maybe you ride him. And I think that's part of it too. You try to figure that out going into the game. But I think Denzel is going to get the first shot of the guards off the bench. And if he can just come in and perform a little better, then he's going to get to run if he's productive, and it'll help the team.
Maybe he could have gotten in the hand of a face of a 3-point shooter. Go ahead, Franz. I'm sorry.
I think Tuesday night, Denzel's problem was he didn't play a lick of defense, and he turned the ball over twice. I mean, it's like he had feet set in concrete. And that's been one of his calling cards in the winning streak, was that he was a very, very aggressive and good defender. And the other night, it just looked like, he left his defense in Gainesville. And I think that had to do with it. Todd will sit a guy that's not showing the effort. You show the effort, you can make the mistakes with him. But if you're making mistakes and he doesn't see the effort, he will sit you. Florida can play and can beat anybody in the country, period. And then Logden is a huge asset during in that game. As Kevin pointed out, he had 9 rebounds, but he's a defensive wall. He does not have to. He's not an aggressive shot blocker, but he is an aggressive rim defender because he takes up a lot of space, gets his hands up, and makes you shoot over him, and that's a tough thing to do. They've got shooters that I saw the other night. They didn't shoot well except for Richard, but when they get people shooting, there is nobody in this country that can beat them.
But when they go cold, they go.
And the other guy who was finishing well inside of late, and had the big game obviously against LSU because he had the better matchup, was Chinyelu. And then you come to Georgia and you get in foul trouble and you're off the floor.
Foul trouble too.
You'd like to see him as another guy too, kind of emerge here in March as well.
Yeah, sure is. Guys, in the final minutes we got here, I want to talk about the coaches. This is the theme tonight. Hopefully, Todd Golden somewhat passed his issues from what we know about, but she had the suit filed against Title IX, which has been dropped. We'll see where that goes in the future. We'll see if there are more suits to civil otherwise. But he's overcome that. And now let's talk about Billy Napier for a second. We were weighing in on a guy who is still not popular with a lot of his fans out there, and I get it. They want him to win 10 games, etc. But in recent days, I've talked to people who are real close to the program but not in it, and they're telling me things like, "Billy will never get it because he won't listen. He's going to have it do it his way." That he actually keeps like a little piece of paper in his pocket about things he wants to get done in whatever order. He doesn't want to get them out of order. He wants them to happen in a certain way, even to a point of suggesting stories be given to certain people in the media. And I can't give an example, but I know this as they talked about, to a point of hiring a coach, assistant coach, and not telling anybody he's hired assistant coach and not announcing it. So that's not a good way to go. Now, I'm hopeful Billy's going to come out of the gates like hair on fire against LIU, whatever they are. It has a good year, but there's some characteristics that somewhat bother me. When you try to be Nick Saban and you're not Nick Saban, you can't be Nick Saban. And the coaches love to control people. Is Billy too controlling? Can he see beyond his own nose? Does he understand his obligation to speak to people about the program who are looking for any little crumb? Tell me how we're doing, and can he tell them? On that count, I think he's struggling. Am I wrong about that, Francis?
If all the things you hear are true about that, yeah. The one advantage that Billy does have, though, buddy, is this: the kids love him. I mean, that's the one thing about it. Am I happy with the way he treats the media? No, I'm not. I mean, he comes out and he puts on a cordial face, as Kevin can tell you. He comes out there and smiles and everything like that. But he's got guys that he likes, and you can tell, he's going to defer. He's going to defer to them, and they get stuff we don't.
Well, it's not just the media; it's the overall thing. As someone said to me, look, every coach has their peccadillos. We didn't like the way Ron Zook did some things. Didn't like the way Spurrier did some things. Just say we mean fans, whatever. And I guess he's right. He's okay to have his program his way, but it just seems like, I'll use the word stubborn. Billy is a stubborn man, right?
Oh, he is. There's no question about that. But I go back to that one thing. The kids love him. And if you can be the biggest asshole in the world to everybody else, but if your kids love you and they got your back, you got something going.
You're allowed to say that on the podcast?
You're still, you look, I mean, you still have to win games, and you could be as great a friend to your players, but if you ain't there, you ain't going to be there. It doesn't matter. You still got to get things done. I'm talking about his form, his style, what he does. I don't know. This is what people tell me now. I'm never around Billy. I don't see him that much. You guys deal with it. But that's the perception that these people who were very close inside the program who tell me, they say, ain't going to matter. He ain't going to be here in a year.
I wrote the column in November when they were trying to read into the Strickland comment about, Billy, and this was before Texas. It was, 4 and 5, or after Texas, 4 and 5. And, him coming back and we're going to help them. Well, that means they're going to hire an offensive coordinator. And I said, wait. We were hearing the same thing last year.
Never going to happen.
We were hearing the same thing last year. And I said, those that ignore history, I quoted Santillana, are condemned to repeat it. And here we are a year later. And I mean, technically he promoted Russ Callaway, right? But he's still calling the plays.
Nothing changed.
And I think that's the biggest problem that fans have, because, Florida fans are football literate. I mean, they know offense and they've seen offense, and they want something that's dynamic. And they're concerned, for as great as DJ Lagway is, that this offense is going to hamstring him the way Billy calls plays. So we'll see. Maybe he'll prove us all wrong, but until that point, stay tuned.
Ben, is that going to be a problem?
It's going to be a problem if you don't win. I mean, any coach level of toleration only goes up if he wins. Nick Saban is not the most charismatic person you ever met, but he wins games, so you can stomach it. I don't think Bill Belichick likes even hearing the word charismatic, but he won, so you can stomach it. Most coaches ain't gonna be like Pete Carroll, full of energy. They gonna answer quick. They trying to get these press conferences over as quick as possible. But the thing about Billy Napier is, it's his fault. If you come in and you don't win, and you like, well, it's not the media's fault. You didn't win, and I can't give you favorable coverage if you're losing. I got to ask you, what the hell are you doing? But to those media members, and I mean this humbly, it's a lot of media members that did not go to journalism school. They got real close to the program because they gave favorable coverage, and that's the ones that is not, and I love that is not real media, because if you are unwilling to say anything critical, you are a fan that get to go in there and ask questions. And I know a lot of those guys that do that. I'm like, dude, what's gonna happen when you got to ask a real question? And I don't just think it's hard questions. It's just, hey, Billy, why do you got guys, offensive coordinator next to their name, they can't call plays? Well, because that's not real. Just make them an analyst if you're gonna do stuff like that. Because does my pay go up? Do I get to talk in the meeting room? I'll never understand it for this reason right here. Billy, you are the head coach of Florida. And you don't want to talk to the media. Yet these players do more media than he do these days. I mean, they talking more than he does. So I'll never understand that part, only because, yeah, I get it. You're the head coach of Florida. You finally had something to look good, a good season. It's a calm off season, which is something we haven't had in a long time in Gainesville. But don't make life hard on yourself. You're a freaking professional. Go in there, talk to the media. What are they gonna do? What are they gonna ask you? Because, like I said, I've spoken to people that had to do media with Nick Saban, and they said, "We can get rough," but we all got a job to do. It's not that difficult. Come on, man.
Yeah.
And I've always taken the mindset they put their pants on with two legs, just like we do, right?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It doesn't, like I said, and I think the biggest, you make a great point, Ben, and I appreciate that you feel this way. I think the biggest fear that a lot of people have in the media down is they trade objectivity for access. That's the biggest problem,
no doubt,
right now in our profession. I will,
I don't have either. I can't get either. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. And that's
you're right.
And I choose to stay objective. So, and maybe
Ben, you look at two guys, and one guy who do ask good questions, and they were going to hold him accountable, which is what he needs to be. He needs to be held accountable to what he says he's going to do, and then when he does it and how he does it. Look. I heard Steve Spurrier was hired 3 weeks ago. How come he waited to announce it? I don't know.
If I announce a coach, if I go, hey, listen, let's do the run, then let's do Russ, then let's do Steve Spurrier Jr. Let me tell you something, and I mean this humbly. You make too much money to act like this. I am dead serious when I say that, because, dude, you make $7 million a year, whatever you make, right? And you telling me you got beef with the media? You make life really, really hard on yourself when you lose, because now what probably wasn't going to be as rough, send it, write it, put it out. Because I've never, as a person who understood the media is your voice to the fans to say, hey, friends, hey Kevin, hey, hey buddy, can I do a sit down with y'all? Which he still, because let me say this. I appreciate Josh Payton, those guys, and Paul Firebaum and those guys, but come on, man, really? You want the features with the guys who you obligated to? I ain't with that, because like I said, I don't see what the biggest thing is. You're the head coach of Florida. Answer some questions. Why do you got 13 offensive coordinators and they don't call play? What? I'll
And,
never.
and 12 men on the field. So,
Guys, it's as I said, and I'm not trying to sound like I'm a Billy Homer here. I hope he succeeds. I hope, I would hope Attila the Hun would succeed if he's the coach at Florida. I as long as they're the coach at Florida, I want them to do well. But I will say this: his one redeeming quality is the kids love him. Now, the kids are the ones that are going to have his back, because his personality, the way he treats people, etc., like that outside the media, the way he makes it seem like it's a chore. And Ben made a legitimate point here. He's being paid $7 million a year. I cannot understand why every athletic director in the Southeastern Conference doesn't say, you will make yourself accessible daily. You will talk to the media for more than 10 minutes. Scott Strickland shocks the ever-loving hell out of me. The fact that here's a guy that was one of the best SIDs in all of college sports. He was exceptional. My gosh, when we used to go up to Kentucky and he was the SID at Kentucky, my gosh, Kev, we got treated like long lost relatives when we'd go up there. And yet he will not make his coach be accessible. Now, basketball, Todd Golden, we get him anytime we want. We can chat with him. We can, Todd's great. Freshman, hey, if the freshman can play, he can play. He can talk to the media. We don't have a problem with that. But football coaches, I don't understand it. I do not. And you telling me that a guy making, for example, Kirby Smart making $13.2 million a year can't take the time to talk to the media? They want us to, at Florida, they lament the fact that we get so few all SEC players. Well, hell, if you let us write about these guys a little bit, you might get more stories.
Yeah.
There's
a lot there. You're what you're saying, friends, and we're out of time. And you're absolutely right. I just want to say, I hope Billy doesn't labor under the disillusionment that he can hand out everything he wants to the people who he wants to write it. Because that's the feeling I get. That he'll just hand the stories out to people that he favors with. And that's not a good system, because you'll find that these guys, the working press is not going to work there. Like Bino Cook told me one time. Bino Cook said he went from being an SID at Pitt and went over to business. And he said he ran a bunch of business guys that want to control everything. So I don't want that. He says, you don't understand. These people camp out of their door. They don't go away. They just don't go away. And I don't think that Billy's guilty of being rude or whatever. He is very controlling. And I think that might be, there were other coaches in the past, friends, that we've worked with. That's been a downfall of many other coaches, trying to control everything around him. You might be able to do it with your team, but you can't coach the media and the alumni and all that stuff. Anyway, good discussion, guys. One quick thought for the weekend. The trajectory of Florida sports, man, looks awfully good right now with softball and all, and baseball and gymnastics. What are your thoughts about that?
We dominate the spring. I mean, Scott Strickland, I mean, as much as he, doesn't really come out, in the fall. Oh, he walk around with his chest out in the spring. Pick a sport: softball, baseball, track, swimming. Hey, Coach Tim Walton going for his 1000th win coming up against Stanford. Florida be flexing because the best coach in the world, his name is Miles Callaway, and if you can beat him, prove it to me. Because listen, we dominate in the spring. You already know how it goes. And if you don't like it, it's because you got the wrong colors on and you can't beat them, the girls and the gals in the orange and blue.
Glad we got a spring game there, Kevin. Still,
unlike some of the other schools. Hey, I hate to be a Debbie Downer, but women's basketball tonight losing by 24 on senior night.
Yeah, that's not good.
That's the one sport they got to get You know what I mean? But if they can figure that out, then they'll be on the top of the world and everything. But baseball, 9-0. I was at the game last night. Walk off a wild pitch. That was really nice. And I think basketball is going to regroup. I'm going to say that they're going to run the table here these next 3 and go into the SEC tournament on a high note. I really think that they can beat Alabama up there. They don't scare. I think that's a good matchup for Florida. Let's put it that way.
Friends, should we call him Debbie? Should we call him Debbie from now on, friends?
Hey.
Hey, I did on a positive note with that.
This is the karaoke king of Gainesville. I guarantee you. You know, the man is a legend in Minneapolis. I promise you.
Yeah.
There's a bar called the Loon,
Lounge.
and Kevin Brockway is an absolute all-time karaoke legend.
All right, what's your go-to
at the
song?
Loon. And I was there to see it happen. Years from now, when he's in the Sports Writers Hall of Fame, they're going to say, "What do you know about Kevin Brockway?" And I'm going to say, "I remember when he ripped his shirt off and swung it around his head, standing on a bar, singing in Minneapolis."
If you're going to do it right. Kevin like this, get him off the stage. If you're going to do it right, man.
Those were my wild days of my 30s, so long ago.
What's your go-to
Kevin,
song?
it was great.
Kevin?
Don't ever disown it.
Let me ask
Don't
this
be
question
embarrassed
again for the 5th time. What is your go-to song, Kevin?
I have many, but I'll say Brown Eyed Girl from Van Morrison was one of the first I ever did. So
Brown Eyed Girl.
That's the one you sang at the national championship press.
Brown Eyed Girl.
Yeah, those 3 bars of that.
Do you remember when we used to sing?
Sing us out, Kevin, as we say in show business.
Sha la 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 ti da.
You don't get this everywhere. Thanks, guys. Great job. Appreciate it very much.
All right. Thank you.
Come back and sing again for us. All right. All right. Thank you, Kevin and friends and the gang. All right. So let me just tell you about singing this song. Our friends at Renstar Medical Research, who are not only really good at what they do, they're great people. They're taking care of our community's health and looking out for us. We need that, this day and time. What's more important than our health? We want to be able to, you have to think these people are constantly help from you to do these clinical trials. They need data. They need it, and they need to get their own data, and they go and do research to get that data, and they do that by having these clinical trials, which they've been doing for many, many years, well over 800 of them. And then they take that data and send it off to the companies who, in fact, do make the medications and what have you. And for you and I, they need to know more about what we need, how we should be treated. So I would encourage you to look up the information online. Go to renstar.net. And talk to those folks, look at what they got there, go online, see what they have in the way of trials coming up. They always got something going on. It doesn't take but a minute. You might qualify to be a part of that trial, which would be good for you, for them, for us. It would be very, very good for you to have that done for you. And by the way, it's no cost to you. In fact, you would be paid, if you're a pig, for your time and travel. So go into Renstar, look it over, see what they do. They're a fine company. They've been doing this for a long time. And they're superior medical companies you see there on the coupon code. So they're downtown Ocala. They do great work. Go by and say hi. Tell them I said hello. Joe Sorrentino, Mary Brantley, and the whole team there. So Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. Thank you, folks. Thank you for your patience tonight. Thank our guests, as always. We will have a change up with some of those guests next week. We'll start doing some new people. We're coming in. We're going to have Edgar Thompson back next week one night. And we're going to get a few other people you've heard of that you might be interested in. So we'll always take suggestions if you have any. And we'll be glad to try to get those guests as well. Thanks to Brendan Martin, the superb producer who saves us again. And you don't forget tomorrow morning, the show he works on, which is Sidelines. Rob Brown does a great job of going around the horn, letting what's happening in the league. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and good night.